I have strong memories of that era, of having one particular time that I have a very strong memory of was someone coming to our front door when we lived from South Compton. We moved over onto Stillman in Cleveland Heights. That was right near where we all went to school. And this one day I remember somebody coming to our front door and asking for food because they didn't have programs like they had, now. My mother fixed a sandwich and a drink and gave to somebody. You didn't let anybody in the house, but I remember him sitting out on our front step eating.
Huh, interesting. Before we move on to other aspects of your life, is there when I asked you to share a fond memory that you have of your mother and also a fond memory you have of your father, is there one that stands out? What stands out? What's a fond memory you have of your mom?
Well, probably in my mother and father were both very, very spiritual people, and remembering coming down in the morning when we moved from Stillman over to Cottage Grove. And that's an interesting story, maybe, that the bank owned the home we were living in. It was a two-family, up and down, on Stillman Road. And someone bought the home from the bank. I guess you'd say that's much like now with homes going into foreclosure. And we didn't know whether they would want to live on the upstairs or the downstairs. And we lived downstairs, and they decided that that's where they wanted to live, so we had to move. So we moved over onto Cottage Grove when I was 9 years old, and it was there that my memory of my mother, she would always be, when we would come down in the morning for breakfast, and at that time when it was, my mother came down in the morning, she made breakfast, we all sat down to eat breakfast together before my father went off for work and we went to school. And before she would start breakfast, she would come down and kneel on her knees saying her rosary. And then she would go out and prepare breakfast. We all sat together eating, and then we went to school. My father went to work. She went about her day.
Your father, what's a fond memory you have of your father?
When you say that, the fondest memory I have is after we came home from church on Sunday morning while my mother would be preparing breakfast. He would sing. He had the most, I don't say marvelous, he sang like a bird.
He used to sing.
And he didn't sing songs.
Lyrics. He didn't sing lyrics.
He sang like a bird. I mean,
he would chirp, or?
Yes. There was a program on Hart's bird program on Sunday morning where they would have, it would be like bird food or advertising or whatever, and they would have this program of bird singing. And my father sang like a bird. He imitated that.
Interesting. Yesterday you and I went to church, and sitting a couple pews up ahead of us was an elderly couple well into their late 70s, early 80s. And I found it very touching how throughout the Mass the man had his arm around his wife, and there was I had the sense that there was a very endearing love that these two people shared with one another. And I make that observation in light of this next question I have for you. Your parents were married throughout their lives, never divorced. Did they have a very endearing relationship? Was there a lot of love between them, or was it more of a partnership type of an arrangement that you might find with a man and a woman raising some children? Do you remember a lot of affection between them, and
No, I don't.
You don't remember.
But that doesn't mean that there wasn't,
Love.
because it was just such an entirely different era
Mm-hmm.
than what we live in today.
Okay. Well, with that being said, let's go on a little bit to your childhood. So when we grew up, when you were raising myself and the rest of the children, we grew up in a neighborhood where there was just an abundance of children, and I have the fondest memories of my childhood. We were always playing kick the can or baseball, throwing a frisbee around in the field, going fishing. What are some of the memories that you have? Do you have a best friend that you remember from your childhood? Was there a best friend that you used to play dolls with, or?
Well, I had best friend, Peggy O'Hara, who lived a few doors down. But the biggest memory is we had a neighborhood. I couldn't tell you how many. You think you grew up in a neighborhood with a lot of kids. We had a neighborhood where I think there were 20 or 20 plus kids that interacted and played with each other. In the mornings, I know in the summertime, we had certain chores that we had to do at home. And then when we were finished, we could go out, and we went up to a big field at the end of the street, played baseball. Then we'd come home and have lunch. In the afternoon, as more of a quiet time, we used to go to various homes, sit on the back porches or backyards, and play board games.
Huh.
And like Parcheesi and games, similar to that. And then in the night after dinner, we used to play kick the can,
Okay.
Mother May I, and hide and seek until the street lights went on. When the street lights went on, it was time for everybody to go home.
Now, were you? I remember. Oh, I can't tell you how many times I remember hearing those famous 3 words, or actually 4 words. Thomas Matthew, you're grounded. Remember those?
Yes, but
You're
you know
grounded. You're grounded for the whole summer. Oh, I can't tell you how many times I was grounded for the whole summer. I mean, I was the worst of the 10. But were you ever grounded?
No.
You were an angel.
It's I'm sure I wasn't an angel, but it's so hard to compare because the times were so different
Mm-hmm.
then. There wasn't the discipline problems with,
With the children.
if we weren't grounded, but if we did something wrong, we were sent to our rooms.
Were you ever hit with a spoon or a belt or anything like that?
I don't remember.
You don't remember. Was when we were growing up, sports was always a big part of our childhood. Sports, and not